I just want to remind everyone of the formalities, just to remind attendees that this is a formal meeting of the council, and I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. And when people are not speaking, can I ask people to mute their microphones as well, please, for to prevent feedback? So on to the next thing. Apologies for absence. We have apologies from our Mayor, Councillor Mark Foster, Councillor Mark Knight, Councillor Pierre Gilshire, and possibly Councillor Patel. I don't know if he's online, Catherine. No, so we'll register Councillor Patel's apologies, and if he appears online, then he can join the meeting in that way. Great, thank you very much. Okay, any declarations of interest at all? No. Okay. Going to number 3 then, Chairman's announcements. I haven't got anything to add this evening. So on to number 4, public open session. Do we have anyone online, Catherine? No one wishes to speak. Okay, great. Okay, then straight through to number 5. We've got Mr. Nanda, who's our invited speaker from Bonds Lane Post Office. So I think he's known to many of us in this room. So a number of issues I think he wants to raise with us this evening. So I'll let him, you've got about 5 minutes or so if you need longer. And we can have a little discussion, I think, after your comments, and then we can get on with the rest of the meeting as well. So over to you.
Thank you. Nice to meet everybody for the first time. I think that really to attend today was just to continue raising awareness around the sort of banking community and the facilities that are dwindling within Biggleswade. I think that most recently Halifax has now closed its doors on the high street, which does leave only Lloyds Bank and Nationwide on the high street. The role that the post office is playing at the moment is really trying to bridge that gap where those banks no longer exist. But as many of you may know, there are only certain transactions that we can undertake within the post office for various and obvious reasons. But I think that the big thing now is really around the banking hubs, which are really sort of designed now to really support and fill more of that gap where the banks are now very, very absent. Now, with the process of actually understanding and registering interest with the banking hubs, is that all of the banks within a particular area, do need to be absent. So, following the closures of the banks within that particular area, you then can register your interest for a banking hub. That will go through a formal process of consideration. And we found out recently that Sandy have sort of started that process in terms of registering their interest, because as I understand it, there is no banking sort of facilities available now in Sandy. So really what that means for the future of Biggleswade is that if Sandy was to be approved and to have a banking hub, Biggleswade would not be considered because of the location and proximity to Sandy. So it then means that the residents of Biggleswade will then have to travel outside of the town. That would be the closest that they would be able to access a banking hub, if not their own bank, which would be in sort of various neighbouring towns and counties and so on, which they're having to do at the moment. So what I do understand is that we do still have Lloyds and Nationwide on the high street, and if they are going to be around for the foreseeable, it does mean that really our way by sort of a town, and I mean sort of for councillors, residents, anybody sort of associated with Biggleswade, is really to try and create some sort of momentum and appetite that there is a need and a desire for Biggleswade to have a banking hub. And I suppose all we can do right now, and what we're asking really, is that we, as postmasters and postmistress, to really do as much as we can internally to drive that forward. And it's really just trying to get support of the community to really help us in steering that and trying to put Biggleswade's name in the hat. I think at the moment that's really the objective. We can't do much more than that at this time, but really to put that into consideration, because Biggleswade has a much larger population. We know that it's had much more investment, is going to have more development, and I think that from a banking hub perspective would be best, sort of facilitated and situated in Biggleswade. But at the moment, it could be a timing factor that may mean that other locations are considered before Biggleswade. And unless those sort of rules change further down the line, it does mean that Biggleswade may not have that opportunity in the future. So I think that that's really sort of why I'm here today, and really just to continue that momentum, and anything that we can do to support the town and community, we're absolutely happy to consider and be involved and be a part of.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Are you all right to just take a few questions from members, maybe? I think if there's anybody who's got any questions. Councillor Albone, and yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that there's a process to go through to achieve a banking hub. Have you any idea how long that process would take if it was embarked on now, say?
I'm not sure exactly on the timescale. I'm not sure exactly on the timescale. I would have to say, roughly speaking, maybe a year to go from start to finish, because within that process, not only does the location have to be approved, the post office would have to source an appropriate site. It would have to undergo renovation and to be available, with the necessary facilities. So taking all of that into consideration, it could be a year, it could be longer. So there is quite a lot of work that will go into it. But that's roughly speaking at the moment what my understanding is.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. Can I just remind members that we at the full council had a motion to look at a banking hub in our council meeting in May, I think. And we discussed all the elements of this at the time. And the organisation that we were looking at using was an organisation called Cash Access, which I think the organisation that carry out the reviews. And we decided at that time that we would, I think, write to the various banks at that time and understand where they were. And then we would defer the idea of doing a full review with Cash Access until we had those responses. I'm guessing that we're at that point now, and that deferral, if that's the right phrase, we made at that stage. We should actually now bring that forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so I think the town clerk's also had some information in the past few days as well that he wants to share with us on that, which is relevant to the conversation.
Yeah, obviously we're aware that the other building society closed, and we were in contact with them. We went through the Lloyds group connected to that because they're part of the Lloyds group. At the same time as doing that, I reached out to the corporate centre of Lloyds and just asked them for clarity about their intentions over the next few years. And the corporate centre came back to say, as much as their timings are changing in the sense that their Friday is now effectively moving into Saturday, so the hours in a sense are being reduced. They have no sense of the bank closing, and there's no plans associated with closure at the moment. And they put that in writing to us. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I had Councillor Skilton, then Councillor Strawn.
So is the banking hub you're talking about different from Cash Access, a banking hub, or is it the same?
So it is the same. Cash Access, in coordination with the post office, coordinate and go through that approval process. So if Cash Access deem a location to be in need of a banking hub, that's where the post office then join in and start that process of actually identifying a relevant site and going through that process, and actually then recruiting the relevant postmasters to staff that.
And if we were approved, it would likely be at your post office?
No, so there will be a separate site. So it's a brand new facility that would be housing only banking transactions. so it doesn't interfere with, say interfere, maybe the wrong word, but conflicts to an extent with the post office services that go on. And I think at the moment, as it currently is, we're absorbing a lot of the banking network and transactions, you know, within the post office at the moment. But longer term, is that really sort of, I suppose, ideal, you know, for many? And if we don't have another facility, is that going to cause an issue, especially for a town of the size of Biggleswade? And I think that's really what this is about. If it was a smaller community or a smaller town, there may be an opportunity to kind of absorb that and still give the town what it needs. But I think as this goes on and those two remaining as they close, I think that's going to create more of a need and a desire to do that.
Thank you.
I had Councillor Strawn and then Councillor Barrett. Thank you.
Yes, an observation, Mr. Nander. You may have seen on our agenda for tonight that we're looking at a business forum event, and it might be something that it would be useful if you could, we'll get an invitation to it, I'd expect. You could come along and there will be various discussion points during that, and it may be something that you could find out from the businesses in the town, what their thoughts are on the banking situation. It may fit in quite nicely to that, because with the businesses in the town expanding, they will have banking needs as well.
Councillor Barrett.
Just an addition really, that the cash access are actually funded by, I think it's 7 banks. And so therefore it's a slightly independent organisation, but the likelihood is they often recommend that the post office is the best place to do all of those sort of facilities. So just understand that cash access is separate from the post office in that sense.
And Councillor Alban, please.
So we've written to Lloyds, but Nationwide have undertaken to keep their branch network for a set period of time. I just wonder if it might be a good idea to get in touch with Nationwide, in addition to flag up our fears, if you like, and see what they come back with.
So my memory's failing me slightly, but I think we had clarification from that when we went to council in regard to their anticipated closure deadline. I'm thinking it was 2026, if I recall correctly. So we've already got clarity on that, but we can ask them again if you'd like.
Yeah, I think they were undertaking to keep branches until then, but then what's their position on Biggleswade? It might be quite different. They might want to stay open. So it'd be interesting to get their thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just as a sort of add-on. I mean, I think they have had signs when they did have a window saying they were going to stay open until 2026. So I think I'd seen that date too, but I think it won't do any harm to write to them as we did with Lloyds. I think as a follow-up, just to get that down in writing rather than relying on a poster in the branch. I think so. Yeah,
didn't clarify properly then.
Go on, Peter.
The 2026, as I recall, wasn't based on the poster. It was based on us reaching out. So we had that in writing. So we've already got that, but we can ask the question again if you would like. Yeah.
But I think if we've got it in writing, would you be able to circulate that to members? Sure. If you have that, then we probably don't need to write to them again. But if not, then we should certainly reach out to them. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Just add one more point. Relevant to Nationwide is that part of the review process is considering Nationwide, if they are open and accessible. That is part of the cash access review. So that would mean that Biggleswade wouldn't qualify for the criteria to have a banking hub. However, because of the desire and the need, if that was the only bank that was then remaining on the high street, as we know, not everybody banks with Nationwide. And we also know that they don't offer services to everybody, let's say, for example, like the post office. So it does make it very difficult if you've got banking needs and you can't really do that other than to be able to withdraw cash. So I think it's then leaning towards promoting the needs and the benefits to Biggleswade of having a banking hub rather than kind of fulfilling a criteria that cash access have. And whilst that may be going against the grain a little, I think it's just what we can do. And as I say, at the moment, really the objective is just getting our name out there and saying, look, we feel that the banking hub would be appropriate for X, Y, and Z reason. No, that's what I think is sort of really the goal here.
Thank you. Last question from Councillor Barrett then, please.
It's more that I think we get
Comment.
getting to the point of a sort of
Okay.
proposal in a way.
Brilliant.
That I'd sort of propose that we, having had deferred this before, I think now is the time that we actually do formally write to Cash Access. And we ask them to do a review of Biggleswade's banking requirements, which take into account all of the current banking facilities we have, but also those in the future, but also including all the things that might be required of a town like ours that has a lot of planning applications that are going through with lots of additional people potentially coming into the town over the next few years. Sorry, I've made it very long.
No, I think that's fine, Councillor Barrett. I mean, I was going to sort of sum up a little bit, so you kind of, no, it's fine. I mean, I'm conscious, obviously, this is not a formal motion as such. You were coming along as a speaker, so I think we haven't got a sort of official recommendation or anything. But I think I'm detecting from the room pretty much everybody's supportive of what you're trying to achieve. I don't think there's any particular dissent from that, which is great. And I think we all acknowledge the need for banking facilities in the town. I think, if I may say, what we would want from you, if you can just keep in touch with us as we go forward, and if you hear anything, you know, come back and see us either at a TCM meeting or full council, depending on how it works, and as we can have that sort of dialogue both formally in council and offline as well. And then maybe if as Councillor Barrett said, if the clerk can then look into the process of how I don't know whether we should write a letter or have as an application form or a bid, or what that process might look like, with a view to having Cash Access to do a review, and then we can sort of formally, I guess, approve that at a future council, perhaps, you know, in the right way. Councillor Strong.
Yeah, there's a question of the town clerk, if I may. Is there anything that can stop Councillor Barrett actually putting forward that proposal at this stage, so that we actually pass it as a motion, if that is the wish of this committee? I don't believe that there is anything to stop it being a proposal, notwithstanding the fact that there's nothing formal on the agenda in that respect. So I think if Councillor Barrett wishes to propose something on that basis, then we can second it if we feel like it, and support it if we feel like it.
You can.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Okay, so okay, all those in favour of yeah, sorry, who got a seconder? Okay, Councillor Strawn, brilliant, thank you. Okay, so all those in favour of allowing Cash Access to do a review of Biggleswade's banking needs, and the town clerk will look into the exact way we do that. Okay. So I think that is unanimous then. Brilliant, thank you very much. And thank you for coming this evening, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Okay, number 6, members' questions. Okay, Councillor Strong.
Yes, as this committee has got various spending plans coming up, at the big joint committee meeting that we had with Central Beds the other week, we did ask that Section 106 information was provided to the town clerk by Central Beds Council. I don't know whether the town clerk has actually had any information. I think I know the answer, but I think it was quite clear that the members of that committee, including the Central Beds members, were wanting Central Beds officers to provide an up-to-date list of Section 106 monies and when it's got to be used by and what for.
Town clerk, over to you.
This will be a short response, and Councillor Strawn is aware of what we're likely to say. The answer is no. We've had no such response from CBC after repeated requests. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Strawn.
In that case, perhaps we could ask the chairman of the joint committee to raise a matter with his officers, and maybe the vice chairman of that committee, who's Councillor Russell of this council, could raise it also in the appropriate way. Indeed, I think the town clerk will probably raise it with the chief executive. It's not good enough. It's quite clear we need it. There's no need for it not to be in the public domain, and particularly this council's domain, and we need it now, not in 6 months' time.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Strawn. I think Catherine's got that as minuted as to what we need to do, and I think the town clerk will take that action forward. But if you want to add anything.
Yeah, only to say that I've already expressed our concern and offered to express it more directly to the chief exec. I was assured by heads of service that the chief exec was well aware of this and that there remained some IT related issues that they were unable to remedy.
Okay, there you are. You heard it here first. Okay, on to number 7. So minutes and recommendations of the meetings. Page number 6. So the first page of the minutes, page number 6. Page number 7. Page number 8. Page number 9. Yes, Councillor Strawn.
Could I just clarify on the under B, bottom very last word of the 5th paragraph, ease, to increase ease of what?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay.
I don't think there is an increased ease. I think we need to adjust that.
Yeah, I think that can just be corrected to maybe it's ease of use, perhaps, I don't know, or ease of understanding. But yeah, that if we can correct that to actually make it makes a functioning sentence would be great. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Councillor Strawn. Okay. Yeah, page 9. Page 10. Page 11. And then page 12. No, okay. Right, okay. Matters arising then.
Subject to that amendment, Mr. Chairman, I propose we accept the minutes.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wasn't detecting any dissent, but no, we have to do it properly, right? Okay, so any matters arising, page 6. Page 7. Councillor Skilton.
Yeah, this was in relation to 6A members' questions. I asked about the wall at Chestnut Avenue car park, and I know since then a bit of more wall has been damaged, possibly by vehicle. Just wondered if we had to get an update on that, please.
Okay, 10 o'clock. Or Karim, please.
Thanks. I know the public realm manager's been looking into that, and he'll report back soon in terms of damage, etc.
Thank you. 10 o'clock.
Just to clarify, so it's in progress. We're seeking quotations for that, and obviously once we've got those quotations, it will come back to council for authorisation.
Okay. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Okay. Great, thank you very much. Okay, right, moving on to number 9, items for consideration. The Biggleswade Town Council Business Forum event, and I think that's for you, Ian, is that right? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, we're going ahead with the business forum events. It's being pushed back slightly from the original provisional date of the 16th of September. Everything got shifted slightly back because of the general election and Purdah and such like. When we've got a firm date, we'll let you know and circulate it. We've now sort of hit holiday season when key people are away. Extending a few invitations to give us time to invite Richard Fuller MP, who has a previous business and entrepreneurial background before he became an MP. we were going to invite a speaker from Nationwide, and I have recently made contact with the local business director for the Skipton Building Society, who are moving into the area. So it'd be opportune to give them an invite and see what they have to say about why they would want to move to Biggleswade and what the potential is. I guess they're going for the business market.
So we don't have a new date in mind yet. It's still sort of being considered.
I think until someone gets back from leave, we are slightly in limbo. Karen?
Just to say, so we've had discussions with CVC officers, and the two dates here are both potential yeses. So 16th of September and 30th of September. So
It's the 16th or 30th of September. Okay. Thank you. I mean, from the chair, I think it looks, I think it's a welcome addition to something that we we need to do in the town, as we've talked about, growing town. But I'm obviously happy to hear colleagues' thoughts and questions on that. Okay, Councillor Strawn.
No, I welcome it. I think it's something that needs to happen for the town. My biggest concern actually is making sure that those attending can attend and park, because that is going to be the biggest issue, I think, for people getting there at the Orchard Centre, is the parking facilities highlighted in the report. But I think that is particularly important to the extent that even a map to go out with the invitation might be quite useful, pointing at the areas that people can park, because it would be a shame if it didn't work because of the parking issues up in that area.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I did when I was reviewing the agenda for TCM, I did raise that as a particular point, which is why it's ended up in the papers as well. So, Councillor Northern and Councillor Skilton, please.
Yes, just to clarify, there is an organisation which may be not in the best state of health, or almost moribund, possibly, of the Biggleswade Chamber of Commerce. I just wonder if they are involved, at least notified that this is taking place, invited to take part, rather than completely left out, because it may be a chance for them to revive their fortunes.
I think part of the agenda and purpose behind this is to try and revive the Chamber of Commerce, or whatever similar organisation carries that torch in Biggleswade. Certainly on the invitation list, there's a very long invitation list. It's a shame that there isn't actually an organisation of that nature with that sort of title that we can go to directly. But this is very much coaxing the rebirth, the renaissance of such a business community and a network across Biggleswade.
I mean, I haven't had conversations about this before. We have had problems as a council trying to reach out to Chamber of Trade, Chamber of Commerce through various channels, and I think it is a bit moribund within the town at the moment, which is, I think, a bit of a problem. And I think, as Ian was saying, one of the purposes of this is to try and reinvigorate that business interaction, that business conversation. So hopefully, whatever contacts we do have, I don't know, officers will have to find out. We will include them as well, and it may be a way of energising that, perhaps. That's what I would hope, but let's see. We've got Councillor Skilton, you next, please.
Thank you. So just on the location, really, does it have to be at the Orchard Centre? It's not the most densest part for businesses in our town, and I think we've got some large businesses that we've got good relationships with, like Tritax or the Co-op, that may be able to provide space and help facilitate it. So I don't know whether it's worth reaching out. It may not be possible for the first one, but maybe in future. Obviously, our businesses are concentrated around the town centre and our industrial areas, so it might be better to do it near there.
Ian, have you got any comments on that or thoughts?
Yeah, clearly we want to promote and raise the awareness of the Orchard Centre. I know the Co-op have done recruitment there in the past, so that might be because they haven't got their own facilities. I think there should be a sort of a good neighbour policy towards businesses and industries in East Biggleswade. So I would like them to be aware of and making use of the Orchard Centre. When you talk about community centres, it's not just for the residential community, it's for the business community, the wider community as well, and it's part of that. So I think part of our logic was to try and raise awareness and raise the profile of the opportunities to use the Orchard Centre by thinking slightly outside the box and using it for business purposes.
I take your point, Councillor Skilton. I think, well, as we, I guess, calibrate the dates, we can see. But I think maybe for the first one, it might be worth trying the Orchard Centre. But absolutely, you know, the other businesses have other facilities, and maybe that could be an outcome, as Mr. Campbell was saying around some of this. So let's just see. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, to clarify matters, I think with regard to Biggleswade Chamber of Trade, I think it is dormant. There is apparently money in their bank account, and two former councillors are, I believe, still part of the Chamber of Trade, even though it may be dormant and it may not be actually doing anything. The former Place Town Centre manager was aware of them and had various discussions. And may I suggest that Mr. Campbell contacts Mr. Sheldon at Sheldon Electrics in Hitchin Street and Mr. Medlock from the Surfing Cafe. They two, who certainly know about what's going on with the Chamber of Trade, they may even be officers of it for what it's worth, but that contact needs to be made. I know from speaking to Mr. Medlock, he's very anxious that something happens with regard to boosting the town centre. So they're the kind of people from old Biggleswade, if I can put it in those terms, who'd be anxious to participate.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn. No, that's great. I was aware about Mr. Sheldon's involvement, having spoken to him previously, but not with others. So we'll investigate that sort of offline, I think. I'm conscious, Town Clerk, the recommendation here is to report the note and to agree. Do you need a vote on that, or can we? You would like a vote? Okay, right. So, okay. So we have a recommendation here from the development manager. All those in, sorry, Councillor Albo.
I'll propose the recommendation as set out.
Okay, thank you. You'll second it. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, all those in favour then, please. Thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Before we move on, looking at the date, which is only shortly after, the first date is only shortly after the next town council meet, or the not next town council meeting, but September's meeting. Could we possibly have an update to the next council meeting, i.e. next week, as to where we are on this? Because this is it's a very short time scale, and there's no further meeting of this committee in that time scale. So we need to know what's happening in the interim, please.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request, the Town Clerk. So if you could follow that up in the next sort of.
I think the most sensible thing is to do an oral update on the 30th of August, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. Great, thank you very much. Okay. 9B, Christmas light switch on. Yeah, that's right. Christmas light switch on event. Okay. Is this you, Grim? Oh no.
Yeah, it's me again.
Okay.
Yes, we're working our way through the necessary parts of the action list and ticking them off as we go. We're working on the SAG documentation. We're working through a list of traders, getting their credentials and such like in order, and putting together the running order for performers. Where in the process of, well, we've raised the PO, we've got to put, actually order the Christmas tree, which I think is going to happen tomorrow. It's all going through systematically, correctly, as it should do. Doing okay on the budgets. Getting inquiries from traders to firm up their details, and we're putting together the running order for the performers and people inquiring about that and asking for particular places at particular times. So that's the way other things are shaping up. I think we'll then be moving on to more of the marketing and promotional side of it, which my colleague Funder will lead on. Okay.
Town Clerk, did you want to add anything?
I just wanted to clarify something which is really important, actually. This is obviously one of the biggest events for the town, and we need to get it right. And if we go back several months now, there's a detailed project plan associated with this running into many, many pages, which is regularly shared with members. There's also, if I recall, looking at Ian now, a 2-weekly meeting where members are invited to come in and that level of detail is shared with them. And this is being managed like a Prince 2 project. It's got lots of information there, lots of affirmation from members that actually we're on top of things. So I don't think today is about a transactional conversation, because we've had lots of opportunities with members to reassure them that that rather exhaustive list of about 70 or 80 or 90 things is being done and being done on time. So this is really just sort of giving you additional reassurance that we're on target and that the budget is just over balance. It's not quite balancing, but it's gone over by a couple of £100. But otherwise, I think we are making very good progress. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
Can I
very
just add to that, please, Chair. The ambitious plan at the beginning seemed to be to run the Friday events into Saturday and possibly into Sunday. For various reasons, the Biggleswade churches aren't available to do a carol concert on the Sunday because it's the first Sunday of Advent, so that's gone out. Some of the traders, especially the catering side of things, were less than enthusiastic about doing things Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So really, with things dropping out of Sunday and people thinking they could do them better on this Saturday instead, we are now looking at concentrating on Friday and Saturday as the main events, full stop really. So what was going to happen in Sunday is either not going to happen at all, or will be incorporated in Saturday activities like working with Big Eats or a seasonal food thing.
Thank you. That's great. Councillor Barrett, I think you indicated to speak.
Just a quick question in terms of order of process, but we're talking here about 9B, Christmas lights, which we're going to perhaps talk about recommending that in the section, but we've also got 9C, which is reindeer in the market square, which has a financial implication. But if we agree with 9B, that would include the item that's in 9C. So we'd be agreeing something before we got to the next bit. Does it matter is my question.
So if I could hear you were saying from that distance, and I was having a bit of a problem, but I think, so basically the next point of discussion connected to that opportunity is factored into the budget planning. So the net position includes that on the assumption that members will be keen on that, and we've already gauged interest from members, and I think there's a general supportive sense connected to it. So it's within those figures. So if you support it, it's factored in. Yeah.
Councillor Agnew.
Just had a question. I think there was something in our calendars for this Thursday related to Christmas events. Is it related to the same topic or something broader?
It's a regular event with members, so you get, I mean, the reason why we do this is it's almost like over egging it. It's such an important thing and there's such a lot of activity. I mean, speaking on behalf of Ian and Corinne, but particularly Ian, this is like a day, it's BAU every day, keep on top of it type of stuff, you know what it's like. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Councillor Strong.
I can take it from what's just been said that the report has been overtaken with regard to Sunday, because I was very concerned about how we were actually going to manage it with no town council involvement, because I thought that was going to be, or feared it was going to be impractical, but that seems to be no longer an issue because, as I understand it, it's not going to happen, notwithstanding the report. So that helps clarify my thoughts there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was clarified that if there are any remaining elements on the 1st of December, they could be rolled into a Saturday event. So I think the sort of Sunday's null and void, I think essentially is what they're trying to say. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations here. I won't read them out, you've got them in front of you, and we've got a lot to get through tonight, but I'll take them in order as sort of 1, 2, 3, if that's okay. Do we have a proposer and a seconder then, please? So Councillor North propose it, yeah, and seconder? Yeah, for the motion. Okay, so I'll do this per motion. So if you see what I mean. So yeah, so for the first one, then to enable officers, etc., to develop pros events. All those in favour? Yeah, great, thank you. Second one, are you prepared to be a proposer and seconder for the second part as well? Second question. Okay, okay. So the second part, to enable officers to explore potential extend the event, no other costs, etc., etc. All those in favour? Great, thank you. And then the final one, I think same again. All those in favour for detailed appendix A? Great, okay. Brilliant, thank you very much for that. We've got a lot to get through tonight, so that's good. Right. Okay, great. Thank you. So we've now got item 9C, which is a slightly connected event for our Christmas activities. Over to you, Helen.
So thank you. This is a suggested additional event to our Christmas offer. And the idea is that it would be held mid-December on a Sunday, so it wouldn't clash with the market, but it would bring people into the town on a day that it might not usually. Very family orientated event. It would be 2 reindeer in a secure pen in the market square with 2 handlers, and there'd also be a small sleigh that children could sit on. The only other thing to mention is that this event, the same company, has been held in Letchworth for several years. It's proved to be very successful, so it would be great to see it also in Biggleswade. And I'd hope if it is approved and it does prove to be a successful event, that it's considered as part of our existing Christmas offer. You know, for it to be held every year would be really great. So.
Thank you very much, Helen. Okay, any questions at all? Councillor Strong.
Just a question, I haven't seen it in the papers, it's probably my eyesight that's done it, but is Father Christmas going to be present? Because I think if he was present, a picture for kids with Father Christmas and a reindeer would be rather nice, and it might be some way of recouping some of the cost of performing, because I think families would quite like to see their children with Father Christmas and reindeer.
Helen?
Yeah, I did actually think of that, but it's not actually in this report, but we could include that, and that would be something we could add into addition of the event if members were supportive of that. Could easily arrange for that.
Perhaps it could be looked into, is what I'd say, and see what is possible or not.
No, I think so, and I know in the past, in different guises, we've had charity groups in Rotary and others that have offered this. Whether that's possible, I don't know, but if we can look into, you know, voluntary options as well, that might be a way forward perhaps as well. So okay, great. Okay, for no more questions then, can I have a thank you very much, seconder? Thank you. Okay, great. All those in favour? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, next one, 9D, Market Square and Town Centre Vision report. There's quite a lot here, but we've got three questions or 3 recommendations to look at. So any questions in the meantime? Yeah, if you want to add something, Peter, that's great.
Thank you very much for the hard work from Ian and Karim connected to this. I mean, fundamentally, this is very straightforward at this point. There's been multiple conversations with members and working groups associated with this. We've got now a degree of absolute clarity that we didn't have before in regard to our intentions. However, if you compare our town centre vision to other town centres like Dunstable or Leighton Linslade, once they've got that determination of vision, they then professionalise it. They put it into a nice document where our residents and our businesses and the wider community can get a real sense of our professional approach and our intentions. And that then lands better with our strategic partners. They can see that professionalism. And that's basically what this report is suggesting. We've got that clarity now. Can we have your support in seeking quotations to try and professionalise it so that it lands well and is powerful upon the receiver? Thank you.
Councillor Skilton.
Thank you. So I feel like we've already done this. We've resolved and done this. This is what the last consultant was supposed to do, but because some members didn't like what he thought was the best vision for town council, we stopped it, got officers to edit it, and now we're going to pay somebody again to make it look more professional. And I feel like we're sort of, you know, kind of doing the same work again.
Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of points. One is there's a cost to this. wearing a different hat, I look at the cost and wonder how we can fund it, which in part leads to the question about Section 106 funding. A further point that I think could be looked at is with regard to Century House and the public conveniences there, because recently I became aware of a minute from, I think, this committee from 2006, which actually raised some issues over the maintenance, etc., and management of the public conveniences. So I think there's further research that can go into it from past agreements. I think 2006 it would still have been Mid Beds Council that was being dealt with, but I think there's some background in our council papers about ownership, etc., which probably predates most of the councillors in this room in terms of being on the council, possibly with the exception of one in this room at the moment. Councillor Allburn, I think you were on the council that time probably, but I think it's something that we do need to look at and get a bit of the history, because there's some very peculiar things that have happened over the years.
Okay, Town Clerk and then Mr Campbell.
So coming back to Councillor Strawnin's capacity of chair of F&GP, this report makes it very clear that the costs, if they were supportive, can be sourced from the existing budget. Yep, it says that in the top area on page 1, and we're confident of that. So there's no issues connected to going to general reserve or anything. It's absorbable within the existing budget. Going back to what Councillor Skilton was saying, I do have some sympathy with what you're saying. So we did have a document, a professional document from the consultants at the time. There was some interesting conversations with members about how we might want to vary that in different directions. So, I mean, yeah, one option is effectively go back and to do some variation to that. It did look professional at the time. It isn't quite what other town councils generally produce, but you know, the other alternative is to try and professionalize it through a different route.
Mr Campbell.
Thank you. Regarding Councillor Sean's comments about Century House and the public conveniences, things have moved on dramatically in the last few weeks. We now have the money available from UK SPF for the refresh and refurb. We have, we think, a working quote from a thing called flush toilets. Question now really is whether it could be done and dusted before the Christmas lights switch on, because we don't want it to be a building site during that weekend. But we've also been talking heads of terms with CBC about the ownership of Century House, the Market Square. So we are pretty much good to go. As regards the second part, cut to the chase with this report, what we want really is £5 for a glossy version of the report, which sells this in a professional and highly impactful manner. Yes, I agree with Councillor Skilton to some extent that you get a sense of deja vu, but I think we need to put a polish on it, a bit of a spin on it, and put it out as that sort of document.
I'll let the Town Clerk respond, and then I'm going to come to Councillor Allburn and Councillor Barrett.
Just for clarity again, for Councillor Strawn, we're not asking for additional sums of money connected to this. It will be absorbed within the existing budget, but we are looking for members to be supportive of the intentions. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Allburn.
Yes. Do we need a specification for what the output is that we would expect to see, and how do we go about producing that?
In our conversations with as officers, we've shared what other similar town councils of similar sizes produce. It's not rocket science, but it's that type of quality that we're looking for, and that would be easy to do a half page of spec based on that and then share it with a potential provider. So yeah.
Okay. Councillor Barrett and then Councillor Thomas, please.
Just to comment, sorry, I'm reasonably comfortable with allowing officers to go ahead and produce this professional document. I have seen some of the documents produced by other town councils, and they are slightly different from the one we had originally, so I can sort of understand the difference for it, and I can understand the different areas that this new document will be used and who with as well, and different people. Second comment is the vision document is just a thought process really. Is that earlier on we had a conversation around banking hubs, and we're talking about the repurposing of Century House. if we were to think about somewhere to put a banking hub, could we include that idea into that thinking, please? We're a long way off on both, but just could we not lose that thought?
Yeah, future proofing. Okay. Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I'd like to ask, how is the specification different from the previous specification if it's going to cost us more money? So,
But I think most members can remember what was produced before. I think the document that was produced before was a kind of, how can I put it, a kind of internal consultancy type exercise. If you compare and contrast that with what other councils produce, it's a very different document. And I have shared it with, I know Councillor Barrett, and I think I've also shared it with our mayor before. I can evidence to you what others looks like. It does look a more convincing document, but I'm happy to share it. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so it'd be nice to be able to see the specification.
Yeah, I
The
think
different specification again.
I think
Because
if
it's
you,
news to me, so there you go.
yeah, if you're able to circulate that to members, or to TCM,
Circumstances to produce the specification based on good practice, and then we can share.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Skilton.
Yeah, so just to, let's not lose sight of what we wanted this vision document for, which was to take it to CBC, or show CBC when they started trying to tinker around with our market and our town square. And so does it necessarily need to be a super glossy document that's going to sit on the shelf? It could be written on the back of a bag packet, as long as it says what we needed to do and CBC can act on it, then that, I think that feels what the original purpose was for that vision document.
Councillor North.
I think we need something a bit better than a fag packet, Andy, don't we? No, I was just going to say, I think although I think as a group we didn't necessarily agree with everything that was in the previous report, I do think the way it was presented with the diagrams, the layouts, the maps was very, very good. So I would, whether this is feasible, I don't know, but to take that as a starting point, modify it with things we agreed with, things we didn't agree with, might be an option to do.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor North. I appreciate Councillor Skilton's sentiment, but we do have the three recommendations there, which I think we probably ought to move to. Councillor Barrett, are you happy to sort of propose this, as it were? Okay. Right. Up to, okay. And do I have a seconder for that as well? Councillor North, okay. All right, all those in favour then as the recommendations set out below? Okay. Okay, thank you. That's carried. Against? Okay. Abstentions? Okay, it's carried, but thank you. Okay, 9E, event ideas. I think this is another one for Mr. Oh, it's for Helen this time. Okay, brilliant. A triumvirate of people helping today. Thank you.
Okay, so this report's been put together, the aim being to improve our event offer in the town. There was a future events ideas meeting that was held in June with members, and 60 potential events was presented. It was decided that there needs to be more detail around the events in order for the events to be agreed by members. Myself and Funda have reviewed the list, and we've looked into the options and looked at what is feasible over the next year, what is most feasible, and what we think we should be presenting to members as suggestions. So there are a number of suggestions within the report, and if I go through introduce each one and then allow.
I think if you just do it briefly, I'm hoping members have read it, but I think
okay,
if you just want sort of, illustrate it very briefly, it'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so the first event is an Easter egg hunt. Again, there would be limited cost for this because it would be arranged by myself and Funda. We would use Franklin's, and it would be obviously a family friendly event. We'd aim to also get an Easter Bunny mascot. So, but we would be arranging the Easter egg hunt by placing Easter eggs around Franklin's and arranging them up the trail ourselves. The Italian market and the flea market, I know the flea market's a little bit further down. We've been in contact with the organiser who organises the same events in Bedford, and they would be keen to work with us to arranging the same type of events in Biggleswade. The Flower and Vegetable Festival, it was suggested this would also be a good idea, again, another free event, but it would link in with our allotments. And we could involve the community garden and Blooming Well. And then the other offer was an open air cinema, which I know is more costly. See other towns offer something similar. From our perspective, yes, there's the cost, but it will be completely run by the company in terms of technical support. And again, we could use Franklin's, so people could bring their own picnic blankets. If we did choose to do it in the market square, then we'd have to provide seating, which would either come at another cost or would involve more effort from, say, public realm team time, things like that. So that's a summary of the different events. Yeah. Oh, yes. I know members have also suggested a tractor event, which I'm currently looking into. There's lots of different, Ian sent me lots of different suppliers and things that we can contact and see if we can get tractors on the market square. So we're just about trying to see if we can get what we're looking for on the market square. Oh, yes, and vintage cycles, the same with that. We're in touch with different companies.
Thank you very much, Helen. That's great. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll save them till the end if any other members might raise them. But Councillor Albone.
I think these look very interesting. I hope we can go ahead with them. I've got a question about the open air cinema and the power. It says it's self-powered and it runs on HVO fuel. I'm not quite sure what that is, but is that going to be noisy in any way?
I don't believe so, because I've sort of seen one in Hitchin before. So the reason that it would be, self-generated, obviously we're going to do it in Franklin's. So it's just weighing up where we want to do the location. So I did that in as well, just because we want to make sure we could realistically be able to hold it there as well. But I don't think there'll be an issue with that.
Councillor Strong.
I've got a couple of questions, please. Firstly, with things such as the Easter egg hunt and the cinema, as mentioned with the cinema, or some refreshments, stalls, etc. I wonder whether something like ice cream van or burger van or something might be suitable for the Easter egg hunt, which we could rent out the pitch to them, so that we actually get something back from it towards costs and put something back. And also, I think it would be nice for the attendees to have something to have eat. My bigger concern, though, is actually with regard to the markets, because a number of these are actually taking place together with the Saturday market. And looking at the number of stalls that is suggested, 35 stalls with an Italian theme running together with our own stalls, is that feasible and practical on a market square with the main charter market? That is my principal concern with those, is that I'm not sure whether it's actually feasible with our own market, because I don't think we should prejudice our own normal market with another market at the same time, which looks as though it could swallow up our market.
All good questions. Mr. Campbell, you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I don't think our market in itself, our Saturday charter market, is more than about 8 to 10 stalls at the moment, so it's not taking up vast amounts of room. I did actually go and visit the Bedford Italian market, and it does stretch from what used to be Marks and Spencer's through to the Market Square. Generally 1 or 2 deep throughout that length past the library and onto St Paul's Square. So I could see that being not a great deal more space than if we incorporate the White Hart car park and run end to end along that. I think that's pretty much the same sort of spaces we'd be looking at. I think that's quite feasible.
Go on, Councillor Strawn, sorry.
Just to follow up on that, I hear what's said, but if we are going to go down that, perhaps we could, Mr. Campbell could prepare a map to show how it would fit in, because it still seems to me, I have concerns over it.
Okay, thank you. No, that's a good point. Councillor Thomas, sorry.
Yeah, we do run the Christmas market. I mean, is it more stores than that? Was a similar number? That should be our template, I would have thought.
Good. I mean, I had a couple of questions really connected to the open air cinema. I didn't see any mention of sort of toilets and that kind of thing, which would need to have, I think, certainly for the cinema, maybe less so for the Easter egg hunt, but obviously Franklin's doesn't have, doesn't have any sort of facilities like that. How have we factored that in? Because if we've got a bar, people are going to be there for a good few hours, etc. We would need to consider, mobile toilets or whatever, that kind of thing. And also how we would manage numbers if it was a free event. How do we stop a surge of 500 people coming who want to watch the film, and how's that sort of allocated? Would it be a ticket basis, all that sort of stuff? And also, if we're selling alcohol, do we need an events license, security, all that sort of stuff? I mean, I realise some of this may be second order, but I think it's important in terms of the whole how the whole event puts together, because I think if we've considered all of that, then it could be a successful event. So I'll go with Ian first, and then Town Clerk, please.
Thank you. These are all issues we've considered previously, particularly around the idea of the medieval festival, which unfortunately can't go ahead at the moment because the organisers are having chemotherapy. But we have thought about the questions of licenses and bars and allocation of food vans, ice cream vans, toilets and the rest of it. We haven't considered those particularly in relation to the pop-up cinema, but we have thought about it in terms of Franklin's. So we are halfway there.
I was thinking with it being particularly the evening event, and also if you're having a film showing where lots of children are involved, they will want access to bathrooms, that's all. But we can have this conversation a bit offline, but I mean, it just needs to be, I think that needs to be factored in terms of, this proposal. Town Clerk. Councillor Barrett. No, absolutely right. I just wanted a clarification on those points, but you're absolutely right to point out that we do need to give direction on that one. And Town Clerk.
So this is not about agreeing things in detail, it's about agreement in principle. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that for quite a considerable time now, I think we've recognised that our events offer could be more interesting and more dynamic than it currently is, and more compatible with other councils of similar size. So I think what we're looking for here is a thank you to colleagues here for actually trying to slim down what was a rather large number before of potential officers to something that feels like it would really complement our offer, because even when you compare us to some of the other smaller towns, some of the breadth of what they have to offer and the richness of what they have to offer is frankly more dynamic than ours. We want to get in that same place. So this is really about a generic sense of these sound like they're good ideas. Please go away, work through them, properly plan them through, and give us a sense about how they might actually work in practice.
Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Thomas, then Councillor Albone.
Can I propose that we do actually look at all of them, because they all look good ideas and they're doable. If one of them falls by the wayside, so be it. But let's look at them all, because there's not too many. We did start off with 80 or something.
Yeah, that's right.
60.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Albone. Yeah. Okay. Great. Councillor Strawn.
Just an observation. I wonder whether it might be worth approaching Shuttleworth to see if there's any relationship we can have there, because they quite often have events. I think they had a classic car event recently, vintage bicycles, etc. And it may be that in looking at some of those kinds of things, it could be looked at, because occasionally I think we have a Barclay celebration on the Market Square, maybe something like that with Shuttleworth, which may be an add-on to their people, so they've got two things to go to or whatever.
Yeah, that's great. Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Barclay cars are turning up for Heritage Open Day outside the big theatre, and Shuttleworth Vehicle Collection have been approached to come on board with the United Counties Preservation Trust bus running day on the 20th of October, Sunday.
There we go. So I've already been included. So can I take it then, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Alban, that you're happy to propose and you're happy to second? Is that okay? As it's set out here. So all those in favour of the proposal? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Brilliant. Thank you. And thanks all for your hard work in putting the papers together as well. So it's really good. Thank you. Okay, 9F, School Park and Stride Scheme Report.
Me again.
Okay.
Just running down to the summary, really not much to say on this. Broadly supportive of the idea, aware of unintended consequences, that everybody would want to be at the school gates at the same time and therefore create merry hell for 10 minutes. And also stop people parking cars for work purposes for longer periods. I think we're now convinced on capacity grounds that there's no real reason to oppose this, and in theory, and it looks like in practice, it's a good idea to actually give this Park and Stride initiative a go.
Thank you very much. Okay. Councillor Skilton.
Thank you. To me, this looks a bit like a sort of something you might see from a council from the 1990s. This feels like a CBC trying to shirk the responsibility to provide safe and accessible walking and cycling to Lawnside, and also provide public transport, which they are the authority to do. And Lawnside has got a very small catchment area, and so they should be actively encouraging parents to not drive to Lawnside. And I'd imagine some of those car parks are probably further away from the school than where the parents live. So this does feel like a bit of a cop out from CBC. And if you look at all their documents relating to school travel and travel in general, their top line is always, we need to reduce private car use and encourage walking and cycling. And I don't see this doing that really. I mean, you know, a few yards from a car park to me is not utility walking.
Thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Alban.
Yeah, on Rose Lane, the use of Rose Lane. So if parents were to park there and take their kids to Lawnside, one of the routes would be over the Crab Lane Bridge, and the footpath there is quite narrow anyway. And there's always an issue with ivy overgrowing the footpath. So I think it's probably Network Rail's responsibility, but perhaps it could be raised with CBC through this, because that really is an issue, especially if you're training kids down that road.
I quite agree, Councillor, but I walk that route every single day during term time, going the other way to St Andrews, and it's used very heavily by St Andrews parents going that way as well. So it is something we'll probably ought to address anyway. But okay, great. I mean, I take your point, Councillor Skilton, about some of the locations are probably further away than where the children actually live anyway. But I think the geography of the town is what it is, unfortunate at the moment. But any further comments on this one, Councillor Thomas?
Would you actually consider walking or driving to the school? Does it take longer to get in your car and drive around than it does to actually walk it? Because the catchment area is so short. Yeah. People aren't.
Well, I think for the vast majority of people, it probably does take longer. I mean, the Lawnside catchment area is within half a mile of the site, roughly. There are obviously parents who I'm aware that come further than that, and there will obviously be people who are going on to work. So there'll always be a minority will need to drive their kids to school, but it certainly shouldn't be, I don't think, be the majority. But I'm not detecting a view from the room either way on this. So other than it's maybe what's set out. So if there's no further comments, we'll take it to a vote, I think. Does anyone want to propose this then? Councillor, okay. And anyone else? And Councillor Barrett can second it. Okay. So all those in favour of the motion as set out, or the recommendation rather as set out? Okay, we've got 3. All those against? 2 against. Abstentions? So 2 abstentions. So it's carried by only just. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Item 10A, Market Square Power Supply Report.
Me again. Keep it brief. We're getting there. It's been long and protracted, but we're very near the end of the road. They're actually coming to do the subsurface underground imaging on Thursday. And we think that is moving towards the end of the process. Then, having identified things, CBC have got an obligation to put it all right. And we're just about there.
Good. That sounds like some positive progress. Any comments, questions? Councillor Strong.
I notice CBC don't have any keys of their own. Is it inappropriate? Would it be inappropriate for them to be supplied with a set of keys so they can actually access their own things without having to ask us and take up our own officers' times? I'm sure the keys can't be that expensive, even for CBC.
You wouldn't believe it. And one of the main problems is that the boxes are that old that they can't get blanks for the keys to cut duplicate keys. There are ways in which we have to arrange to borrow keys off people to get a set.
If council officers would like an introduction to a locksmith, I could always give one. See if they might be able to see if we can get some answers.
I'm not sure how we can take that, Councillor Strawn, but I think we'll take that in the sort of way it was intended. But anyway, the recommendation here on the paper is to note the contents. So it's where we are. Okay, Councillor Thomas.
I propose we accept whatever it is.
Okay. Do you want to vote on this, please? Okay.
Vote,
All right.
obviously.
Fine. Okay. So, Councillor Thomas, you're proposing. Councillor North, you're seconding it. All those in favour of noting the contents of the report? Thank you. Okay. Thank you. No problem. Okay. Page 44. Remembrance Sunday update. And Remembrance Sunday is going to be the 10th of November this year, so the year before, sort of day before the 11th. Okay, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. It happens every year, so this will be a rerun of last year's, which I believe is very well organised, mapped out, regulated, controlled, licensed and all the rest of it. I wasn't around for that, but I've seen all the paperwork that there was. So it'll be largely a repeat performance. Everyone seems to know their place and what they're doing. We're learning the lessons from D-Day, which we had a couple of months ago. There's some things to learn from that, but it is a different kind of occasion. Lots of parading and such like it takes part in this one. Just a little note at the end is to say that next year will be the 80th commemorations of V-Day and VJ Day, so there'll be a slightly different tone and celebratory nature next year. There will be for remembrance in November this year.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions, comments? No, Councillor Strawn.
Just an observation. I recollect we met in Hitchin Street last year, and there seemed to be some confusion on 2 years ago. Sorry.
No, it was 2 years ago we met in Hitchin Street as the Biggleswade or whatever it's called, interchange was being built. But no, I distinctly remember we all met in front of the interchange last year. Sorry to correct you, but that was time flies when you're having fun. So great. Can I have a proposer, please, and a seconder for this? Councillor Gill, are you happy to propose?
Yeah.
Seconder. Councillor North. Okay, all those in favour then of the report? Okay, thank you. Carried. Town centre car parks project update. Mr. Campbell?
Thank you
Okay.
again.
Thank you. Yep.
Yep, we're making good and steady progress with this now. We're moving through getting the traffic regulation orders sorted, the signage approved and modified. The new machines are already available. We'll be taking one and trialling this in the Dan Albon car park for a month before proceeding to commission the rest if it is successful. We've got a pretty good working relationship now with the Flowbird service engineer, which is useful. Just getting it right at the time, we're going to change all the machines. But anyway, it bodes well for the future, shall we say. TROs will be available in August, and then we can proceed to install the first part of the machine. And it should be all singing and dancing, faultless service from then on. Touch wood.
Okay, thank you very much. I know this project has been quite long-winded, so I'm glad we're kind of coming to a conclusion with this one. Any comments, questions from colleagues? Councillor Strong.
Me again.
Okay.
I've read through the parking order. I believe that there are some errors in terms of punctuation, etc., because there's definitions in there with capital letters when they're not referred to otherwise. But if I may refer members to page 51 and the top of the page, second line, vehicles of a specified class or in a specific position, the river of a vehicle shall not wait or permit. Now, I'd like to know what the river of a vehicle is. And on the next.
Sorry, Councillor Straw, whereabouts?
Page 51.
Yep.
Very top, second line. Vehicles of a specified class
Okay,
or
yeah,
in a specific
yes.
position, the river of a vehicle.
I think the D has possibly gone missing.
Well, this is a legal document. It needs to be correct.
I quite agree.
Moving on to the next paragraph, second line, a parking A. I haven't seen a parking A before, possibly a parking B or C, but not a parking A. Could officers please ensure that they've read through this document carefully, or that lawyers, whoever's prepared it, to make sure that the wording is correct, the definitions are correct, because this is a legal document, it's enforceable of law, and it could find that you've got just missing one letter could create some difficulties. I also found that there were one or two definitions where I think a driver was described as entitled to the possession and use of such a vehicle under the terms of a hiring agreement. There's little things in there such as that. Is that really right? Because there's reference to an owner elsewhere, but a driver doesn't necessarily have to be under a hiring agreement. It could be somebody that is a family member who's been allowed to drive. So there are lots of little inconsistencies in here, and I appreciate our officers haven't prepared the document, but those who have prepared it, I would urge that it's be looked into in detail to make sure that it all makes sense. There's also reference to the fact that no receipts or tickets, or they said it seems to mention no tickets. I thought that the Flowbird situation, you would get a receipt if you paid. Maybe not from a point of view of enforcement, but certainly I hope that ticket is still available, because if someone pays by coin, how are they going to prove that they've actually paid? If you pay by credit card or such like, you can prove you can pay when you get a notice through, a penalty notice through. If you've paid by coin, you can't. But those are my observations. I don't want to go through the minutiae of the wording in detail, but I think members have got the gist of what I've been saying from the information that I've given.
Okay, no, thank you, Councillor Strawn. You're quite right. It is a legal document and we need to get it absolutely spot on. We don't want any loopholes or arguments going forward. I think officers have taken on board your points this evening, and I think if if you're able to sort of share where some of those, if they have missed some of the points, if you were able to sort of highlight them and outside of this meeting, I'm sure that would be very helpful, and with your expertise outside of this room to do that. So we do need to get it absolutely right. I would like clarification on the receipt issue though, or the ticket issue, because I had understood that to be the case as well. So if Mr. Campbell can clarify that point.
Yeah, as I understand it, and I've now seen the inside of some of these machines, the new ones work on what they call a ticketless system. The title ticketless system is somewhat misleading because you don't get a ticket unless you ask for one, but they do provide a receipt if you press a button.
So there is an ability to request a receipt, okay? Because I had understood all the way through that was a sort of a requirement of ours. So if that is still the case, that's fine. Councillor Skilton, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. It also relates to the traffic regulation order. I've never seen one of these from this authority or CBC before up close. I was surprised to see our logo on the front of it, considering it's drafted by CBC traffic order makers, and also that it's signed by our town clerk. And I just would ask if officers could clarify that we are the correct authority to be branded on this, and that our clerk has the right authority to sign the traffic order to make it into law, because we are not the parking enforcement authority to my knowledge, and I think that needs to be checked.
Town clerk, have you got any, can you, or could Karim provide some reassurance to Councillor Skilton on that one?
So this document is a revision of the one that's currently in force, in place for the town, which does have the correct, as you say, kind of logo, if you like, on the front of it, and signed by the town clerk as well. So which is currently in force. So this is just simply a kind of revision of that going forward, and it's being done. Sorry, just to say, it's being done essentially collaboration with CBC.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's just check that that's right, because there may be one in existence, but stranger things have happened where councils have found their traffic orders are not right and have had to, to make reparations to people that they've given tickets to and things like that.
Okay, town clerk.
Yeah, I remember the situations that Councillor Skilton was talking about with regard to some London boroughs. So we will reaffirm the legal powers that we have to enable us to do this, to make sure before we do anything. As much as it's an inherited document and it should have gone through proper checking, Councillor Strawn makes some valid comments to make sure that the quality of it is to be improved, because it is a proper point of legal reference. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Strawn.
Point of clarification, rather on the basis of what Councillor Skilton's been saying, I anticipate that we'll need a formal motion in council for this regulation to go through, and for them, I think it's got for possibly the mayor and clerk to execute the document. So I believe it will have to come back to council for formal approval once all the bugs have been weaned out of the system.
Yeah, thank you. I think you're correct in that. So we do have a bit of time to get that all sorted out. Okay, right. Yes. Okay. So we got a proposer, please, for this one, and a seconder. Happy to propose that, Councillor North. Seconder. Yeah, Councillor Abbott. Okay. All those in favour.
Sorry, excuse me. What we propose?
Well, we need to vote on the recommendation to note the report and the draft TRO report.
I'm sorry, but I thought we were saying that we would not be accepting the report as it is, and we'd be deferring it to full council for changes and then to be ratified there.
Okay, my understanding was it was going to come back to full council anyway for final sort of sign off. Okay. Okay, so you're happy with that? It will come back to council for a final vote and acceptance. Okay. Okay, so all those in favour as it was outlined. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hang on. 64. No, it's the. Oh yeah. Right, okay. Okay, so 10D, Rose Lane Car Park Licence Report then, please. Yeah.
Yep.
So, Mr Campbell.
Thank you. This revolves around the creation of reserved parking spaces for Rose Lane school staff, basically, sorry, St Andrews school staff at Rose Lane car park for the duration of the temporary construction period. Generally, this has gone through okay. The school started using the 15 car parking spaces from the 1st of June. There's a charge of £750. We still have a bit of an issue going on with the head lease, but it hasn't prevented us from proceeding on the basis of the best information we have. And while these were expected to finish in time for the new school term, there have been delays due to archaeological issues. So there's no definitive end date for this yet, because my daughter's an archaeologist, so I know these things drag on. And I think I'd be surprised if they're out by Christmas.
Okay. Councillor Skilton.
I thought we resolved at a TCM some meetings back that we would charge the equivalent of a residence permit per, and I'm not sure where that £750 come from. That doesn't look like the right figure. Did we resolve that? Did I remember?
I think Mr Hussaini can comment on that, because I think that was the agreement. So I don't know whether you can clarify how the figure was come to, maybe.
Thanks. Yeah, from memory, it was costed up based on, I think it was 15 spaces, 15 spaces they've asked for over the term they were asking for, based on sort of the tariff that they're being charged for. So £750 was bundled together as a sort of the fee for the licence, as Ian has set out there, and that's currently in force.
So how much would it be for 15 residents to buy a permit for June to October? Because that should be the figure. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I didn't get this far down the agenda, unfortunately. I've had a busy week, but yeah, it just seems like we've done something here that the council resolved to do differently.
Okay, well, Mr Hussaini's, I think, outlined the calculations behind it. So I don't know if the town clerk wants to add anything.
Can I suggest something just for absolute clarity? Can we just look into the detail of that and then provide the maths so that it can reassure councillor Skill that it's been done appropriately? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we can. I'm just saying it was in a report which came already to TCM however many months ago now. When we were doing this the last time around. So that's where the information is held. Confirmation for you.
Thank you.
No, I had understood what Councillor Skilton is asking had been carried out, so to speak, but how we have got there, it would be interesting just to reiterate that, but that was my understanding too. So, okay, Councillor Barrett, then Councillor Albone, please.
And using the information in the pack earlier on, 15 residents for a quarter would be charged £685.
Right, okay, there we go. Okay, thank you. Councillor Albone.
Two things really. First, if the date drags on due to the delays, and is it likely to drag on until after the 31st of October? And if so, do we charge them more money? And secondly, it's school holidays, and that area of the car park is still sort of denied to the rest of the public. Is that correct? Or can we return those spaces during the school holiday?
I think in terms of capacity, there's no real need to return them, because I've never seen it short of 15 spaces. In terms of will it be available by, will it be finished by the October? I think it's a racing certainty that it won't. So I guess another contract might be in order.
Okay, I think maybe that's something we'll have to come back to sort of as we go through, isn't it? As we know more information. Okay, any more questions? No? Okay. So we've got another recommendation here. Can we have a proposer for this? Councillor North, a seconder? Councillor Barrett, okay. Members to note the car parking arrangements and contract arrangements temporarily in place. I think emphasis on temporarily that we may need to extend a Rose Lane car park for the duration of the building work. So that would cover the discussion we've just had now at St Andrew's School. Okay, all those in favour? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, 10E, we've got crime statistics, and I think the town clerk wants to add something first.
So a big thank you to Helen and Ian for producing this document. I just wanted to be absolutely clear. Very, very raw data is offered by the police. Yeah, and Ian and Helen have taken it upon themselves to try and convert this into something that looks more professional and easy for people to understand and broken down by relevant ward. So this is not how the information came to us. So I hope that it's helpful to members. I don't think it's our role as a town council to come to any conclusions associated with crime statistics, as we're not legally responsible for that. But I hope it gives some sense of the direction of travel for members to get their interpretation of other people's information. Thank you.
No, thank you, town clerk. Yeah, I think it's important this committee continues to receive that information, being concerned with town centre issues. Clearly, majority of crime happens in and around the town centre, so it's important to see that. Councillor Strawn.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. In the past, we have had similar type of data prepared and produced to us. And in particular, we have had comparisons with previous years. Now, I don't know, but I get a gut feeling that there's been the figures do bother me, quite frankly, in here, an amount of crime, which we'll have the opportunity next week when the Police and Crime Commissioner attends the meeting. But historically, we have had this basic information provided periodically, and it's had fallout because the police don't provide it in the way that they used to do historically. But I am just concerned at what seem to be the various peaks, and certain wards will have different crime levels. But if you look at shoplifting, it's quite alarming. And you look at the different months, there were an incredible number of, I think, let's just check the figures. There was quite a few assaults, but there was one month that there seemed to be in one area, there were quite a few sexual assaults as well. And so I have got some concerns on what is happening on here. I don't know whether it's out of this kilter with previous years. And obviously we've had statistics at times from the COVID period, which obviously had differences because people weren't allowed out. But I think that historically, and I think we've still got, hopefully still got the information here. If it was possible to see the comparison to see whether crime is going up or down, that would be very useful, because we have had it in the past, and I know Helen has very well provided that in the past. So it may be possible to try and put these together. I don't know, but I am concerned on a number of elements here, and I hope we would actually remember, or all members of the council would have this information available next week when the Police and Crime Commissioner does attend.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Strawn. No, very good points about the data. I think Helen is able to sort of comment on that.
Yeah. So we, when the crime statistics were put together previously, we did compare year on year. The layout that we've done here is different to what we've done before. So if members want to see anything different, then we can put that together for the next report.
Okay. I was detecting from Councillor Strawn that we might want something useful to refer to with the conversation with the Police and Crime Commission next week. So I'm not quite sure exactly, because I didn't realise only a week or so away. So it's quite a short time scale. But if there is maybe some comparison data, I don't know, or whether even the police are able to provide that directly. I'm not sure.
Clarification, Chairman.
Yeah.
I was hoping that at least, the very least, these statistics were available for councillors for next week, because this is the current situation or close to current as it can be. But I think for future reference, if not, I appreciate it that for a number of reasons they may not be feasible for next week, but certainly I think this report could usefully be included in the council pack for next week.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So you're happy with the sort of current ones to be for next week? Okay, that's, yeah, with the short time to go. Okay, and then we can maybe look at that, a comparison at a future meeting. Town Clerk.
I was just going to make the point that I think, bearing in mind how important this is, I think the raw data and the analysis and the graphs should come from the police authority. It's their data and it's for them to analyse. I think it's a reasonable ask of the town council for them to provide that when their presentation takes place on the 13th. I'm very hesitant about the town council in some way trying to analyse other people's information. You know, we're not the experts in this field, so I think it's a reasonable ask, which we will make to make sure that that data comes with the person when they present next on the 13th.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Agnew.
I'd say the only small observation about how the numbers are presented would be in the sense that if you bundle, for example, numbers per ward, then you have a very clear picture or regarding the predominant type of a crime, for example, shoplifting versus sexual. And if we were to publish it anywhere or the Crime Commissioner were, I think that's a good indicative information for the town councillors or the safety people or whoever they are, because I am seeing something from Stratton which already alarms me. And so naturally, as a reaction, you'd like to know, rather than by month, the overall picture for Stratton, for example. Why on earth we have such a horrendous shoplifting, for example? And if we are carrying that kind of figure, then maybe we have to put some kind of warning in place to the shops of that particular ward. I'm not even talking about sexual harassment, because I think there is very little we can do, but still warning the public or whatever. But thank you very much. It's very informative.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
I was just going to suggest that on page 77, we have a very good summary of all of the information. And I still think, I take the clerk's points, but I still think it would be okay for us to present this as we have gleaned this information from your information, and these are the key points that we found. And that picks up from Councillor Strong's comments of 15 sexual offences is the highest number. So I think if we were to use this when the Crime Commissioner comes, it would be a very good introduction to some of our concerns. I don't know if other members would agree with that.
No, that's quite right. Not all members will have obviously have seen all the TCM paperwork as well. So we need to have that sort of consistency of information, I think. Thank you. No, that's a good suggestion. Do you want to comment?
I was going to say, I'll take on board, as much as I won't be here, but our officers will take on board. I think the responsibility, we'll reach out to their chief exec's office because they have a statistical team there. Let's try and take advantage of their statistical team. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you want to say anything, Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, I just want to say, don't drill too deeply into the results which I've found and analysed here. There are bigger, deeper, better data sets than this. They belong to the police. It's not our data, it's theirs. If they don't wish to share it in a more publicly accessible way, that's their decision, not our problem to that extent. It's complex. Different people define things differently, different areas, different crimes, different wards, different police person recording it in a different way. I've seen wards that are consistent with each other all the way along, and then suddenly one ward is completely out of kilter with the others. It would be wrong for me to draw any conclusions or do any analysis on that. All I'm saying is it needs deeper analysis than I can give you here.
And I think that was my point. Rather than saying we've drawn conclusions, we've gleaned information from your information, which leads us to these comments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strong.
I may come back on this. We have had data provided by the police in the past. They've cut back on that. But I think from the point of view of the town, we've got information here that should cause us concern. Without analysing it in detail and going into lots of detail, it gives us some information that we can expect answers on from the police, because it should cause concern. I appreciate the police are having a very difficult time in various places at the moment, and it may come to this county. But it is important that we've got this information. which I think congratulate officers on the work that they've done on it and they've had to do in the past because the police haven't provided it. But we as a town council are responsible for this town, and we are responsible to hold the police and crime commissioner to account, and indeed the chief constable to account. So this is very useful, and I appreciate we can't go into analysis and we can't break it down, but these are just indicative that cause concern. It may be that there actually isn't a cause for concern, but if you read the press recently, there's been a massive increase in shoplifting. A lot of it's not reported because the shops don't want to do it, or because the police won't record it. There's been a historical issue with recording crime, and I think this is the tip of the iceberg. So this report is most timely in view of the Police and Crime Commissioner coming next week, and we should be expected to hold him to account on behalf of the people of Biggleswade.
Thank you very much, Councillor Strawn. No, I think that's understood by colleagues. We don't. This is just the recommendation is really just to note this. Obviously, it is what it is. There's nothing we can vote on. These are the statistics we've got. So yes, exactly. We'll move it and note it and move on to the next issue, which is the Biggleswade vegan market. So 10F. I think Helen, you're going to talk to us about that one.
So this event is to note, myself and Funda have been in conversations with the Vegan Market Company for quite a while now. They hold vegan markets across the UK in larger areas such as Cambridge, but also more locally in Hitchin and Letchworth. They are quite booked up. So the 4th of January date is actually the only date that we could book. I thought it was worth mentioning that because some members might think that they would prefer a different date. But I'm pleased that they have been able to book us in. And it would also tie in with Veganuary. I've been to one of these events before in Hitchin. It's proves to be very popular, a range of different food and drink stalls and ethical and sustainable product stalls as well. It would be held alongside the Saturday market, but it would be quite clearly separated to show where the vegan market starts.
Okay, thank you for that, Helen. Councillor Strawn.
2 questions. Firstly, has it been booked? In which case, if it hasn't been booked, I think the proposal should be that we ask that it be booked if we feel that that's the right thing. But the other observation would be as before when I mentioned, is the capacity in the market square to take both our charter market and our vegan market? I think the answer will be yes, but I think that should be always a prerequisite if we're looking at running another market alongside our charter market, that there actually is the space for both. I anticipate that there will be, but I think that would be just prudent and good management.
Okay, Helen, you...
Yes, so there will definitely be space. Nearer the time we would meet with the event organizer. He's already done a site visit today. We'd agree the number of stalls and where they're going, and we'd be using probably a similar map to what we use for the Christmas fair to just check space and that there's the right amount of space.
So I can take it that the date has already been booked.
Oh
then,
yeah, the date's been booked because they've pretty much said that's the only date they could do.
So to answer Councillor Strawn's question,
Okay,
thank you. Councillor Strawn.
It's an observation for future reports. It says tentative date, and hence that's why I asked the question of whether we needed to approve it, subject to anything.
Okay, Councillor Thomas.
So it's only booked today? Yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant. That's great. Okay, any questions on that? In that case, we just, as a recommendation, we just note the report. Go from there. Okay, great. We don't have any. Sorry, public open session. Is anybody online at all, Catherine? No. Although, if bear with us for an hour and 45 minutes if they have. No. Okay, great. We haven't got any exempt items.